Good morning once again, everyone. As I mentioned before, we'll just wait till 11:35 to allow more participants to join, and then we'll get straight into it. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning once again, and thank you for joining this webinar. Welcome to the second episode of 2024 of the Energy Sustainability Series. My name is Fadia Rashegan, and I will be your host and moderator for this informative session on the role of renewable energy in scaling Nigerian startups and businesses. Over the next hour or so, we will embark on a profound journey of the symbiotic relationship between renewable energy adoption and the rapidly growing landscape of Nigerian businesses, analyzing intricate technical details that support this transition. I'm delighted to present our esteemed panel of renewable energy experts and renowned business owners, each bringing a wealth of experience and insights to the table, providing their diverse perspectives, and I'm sure will help us broaden our understanding of the subject matter at hand. With me on the panel, Ikechukwu Okafo, Senior Research Consultant, Native Insights, where he leverages his expertise in building financial models for energy projects and conducts extensive research to empower and support entrepreneurs and SMEs in overcoming operational challenges and maximizing value creation. He is focused on enhancing Africa's complex business landscapes by improving energy technologies and management, renewable energy systems and sustainability, financial business management, project finance, energy markets, and a lot more. He is passionate about entrepreneurship growth.
I can't hear you, Fats. Am I the only one?
Yes, I think she's having a bit of
I also
No,
hear.
problem.
you're
She'll
not the
join
only
back
one.
now. Just a minute.
Just to be sure.
Okay. Give her a
I
few
was just
seconds. She'll be back.
wondering.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry for that interruption. I believe you can hear me again. But as I was saying, I was introducing our esteemed panelist, Ikechukwu Okafo, and I was saying that he is passionate about entrepreneurship growth in Africa and committed to contributing and delivering impactful projects and initiatives in entrepreneurship, business operations, and the energy sector. Next, we have Dosun Takur, Chief of Programs at Clean Technology Hub. She is a credentialed economist, capacity building expert, and climate change activist who assists in developing startup business in renewable energy and climate change by providing access to finance and networking opportunities. Her experience spans across finance, banking, energy access, and climate action, fueling her passion for technical detail and capacity building. She facilitates professional development sessions for clean energy leaders, as well as running various programs, from raising school awareness campaigns to roundtable discussions with policymakers on creating sustainable environment and future. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Tayo Ogidon, Managing Director of Alternation Navitas Nigeria, where he oversees the off-grid electricity generation and independent power plant for schools, hospitals, residential estates, and telecom masts. With a background in demography and statistics, he has garnered experience in the financial services industry, where he managed property portfolios, provided financial advice and mortgage information overseas. He's also an expert on energy conservation, renewable off-grid generation, energy storage, and alternative energy solutions. I thank you to the three of you for joining me today for this exciting discussion. As we know, Nigeria is buzzing with entrepreneurial energy and is on the brink of a renewable energy revolution. With energy access being a major challenge, coupled with the ever-rising cost of diesel and the recent price increase of tariff band A customers, there has been an increased urgency to transition to clean, sustainable power sources. Today, we are here to explore how this shift to renewables can supercharge startup ventures, driving economic growth while also reducing negative impacts on the environment. This webinar will delve into the following topics to help us further understand the subject matter at hand: the impact of existing power challenges on startups and businesses, auditing and achieving the energy needs of Nigerian startups, financing and integrating renewable energy in businesses, and choosing the right energy mix and renewable energy solutions. So we hope you take what you learned today and implement them into real-world strategies that drive our nation forward, both economically and sustainably. Thank you once again for your attention so far and for joining us on what we'll hope to be an incredibly insightful discussion. So without additional preamble, let's begin. So my first question will be addressed to Ms. Dosun. My question for you is, how has our current power situation influenced business productivity nationwide and the development of our startups and digital economy?
Thank you very much for that question. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I mean, it goes without saying, right, that the power situation, I don't know if anything has gotten worse over the years, and this has actually affected, productivity and development of startups. It's even almost discouraging, for people in this line of business to even try to do anything if they want to. So the role of renewable energy in scaling Nigerian startup businesses is increasingly significant, especially as the challenges posed by this power situation. The unreliable power supply has been a major constraint on business productivity and economic growth. Many businesses actually rely on self-generated power using petrol and diesel, and we're hoping that, that would change in the coming years, which is not only costly, but it's also environmentally harmful. This development of startups and digital economy in Nigeria is closely tied to the availability, and I hope to delve into that later on, of reliable and affordable energy. As the country's economy grows, so does the energy demand, right? And renewable energy is seen as a key part of the solution to meet this demand supply. Businesses actually rely on energy to innovate, to even thrive. Most of the developed countries earlier on invested very heavily in their source of energy, whether it was hydro, coal, or even gas. And so as the world moves forward in a progressive state of data and technology, we need to have a corresponding force, to support that. And so if we decide to remain or take the support systems of the past generations and use them as the world is progressing, you would see that we would really just lag behind. And now there's a overly dependent feature on fossil fuels and all those other sources of energy that we've been using, which is not enough anymore. And so it would be nice for us to kind of move into renewable energy now. So we see how investments in new energy and renewable energy infrastructure can actually help startups to thrive. But we need to actually also talk about the investments that would be needed in this kind of startups or businesses to even make the economy grow. But right now, with the current situation in power, productivity is low. Can it be better? Yes. With the same solutions we're using now? No, we have to look for other, ways in which we can actually thrive as an economy. Thank you. I'm hearing that there's an echo, so I will try and see if I can move to another location. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you very much for that, Dusan. And you're very correct in saying that innovation, energy is required to drive innovation. And in doing so, we need to also, renewable energy is definitely needed to diversify our generation as a nation. So thank you very much for that, Dusan. Tayo, my next question is for you. How do businesses currently manage the challenges of meeting the high energy demands required to expand operations and optimize productivity?
Hope you can hear me. Thank you very much thanks for inviting us to the panel. It's always a pleasure interacting with Energy as our OEM as well. I'm going to deal with your question in two parts. Hope you can hear me. Thank you very much thanks for inviting us to the panel. It's always a pleasure interacting with Energy as our OEM as well. I'm going to deal with your question in two parts. I'm getting such an echo, so I don't know how to deal with it. Is that coming from me, or what can we do? Okay, so at the last point I stopped, I said I was going to deal with the question in two parts. I'm getting such the very first, so I don't know how to deal with it.
Can you try logging out and logging back in?
Is that to me? So at the last point,
Yes.
I said I was going to deal with the question in two parts. Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, whilst Tayo just sorts that out, my next question is for you, Ikechukwu. What key sectors are most affected by these energy challenges, and what are the implications for our businesses' competitiveness globally?
Okay, thank you for having me here. I'll start by recalling the announcement of I think in the first week of this month, when the government announced an increase in the cost of power, especially for band A, users. It was more like an April Fool's message for Nigerians, because I think that information came on the 2nd, probably because the first was a public holiday. Otherwise, maybe would have gotten that on that 1st of April. So,
Okay.
and between then and now, I think the grid has collapsed like 2 or 3 times and several times, in the past. So, because of that, most businesses like the Dawson said rely on generator as their main source of power, rather than the national grid. It's unfortunate that these things, are happening, but we are where we are today. We're looking at the sectors that are greatly affected. I think all sectors are affected. It will be difficult to look for the one that is not, because every sector is affected. Businesses, SMEs, factories, manufacturers, startups, even for home use as well. So it cuts across all sectors. Want to look at the agri sector, for instance. Our productivity in agriculture is declining because of lack of storage facilities, especially for perishable goods. If you do not have power, how do you preserve your crops or your harvest? And so because of that, we have seasonality in our agricultural sector. Rather than an all year round sector, we just have them, when during the seasons. Again, we want to look at the service sector, health, hotels, you name it. Everybody is affected. The banks, for instance, the tech startups, they have these data centers where we know they are supposed to be powered like 24 hours a day. And if we notice, sometimes we experience network failures, maybe using our banking apps, in our telephones, in our internet connections. Sometimes these are due to power failures at the data centers. But we blame the network providers for something that sometimes are actually beyond their control. SMEs are the backbone of an economy. So if your SMEs are running on generators, how would they survive? Okay, 80% of our businesses and about 85–90% of employers in Nigeria are in that sector. So with the current situation, energy, cost of diesel, cost of petrol, how many of them can actually afford these things? Okay. Is it in our industries now? And capacity utilization is about 50% for over 5 years now. We have not added any new capacity, in our industrial sector. So it's really a terrible situation that we are in. If we want to do some comparisons, South Africa, they are doing like over 78% in their industrial output, while we are just at 50. So you can see the large gap. In terms of power capacity, while we are struggling to do 4,000, 5,000 megawatts, China, which is the factory of the world today, is doing over 300 gigawatts now in solar alone, and they are doing over 190 gigawatts in wind. But we are still struggling to do 15,000 megawatts. That's like 15 gigawatts. So you can see the difference. Little wonder most Western countries are citing their factories in China and not in Nigeria. So if we are looking at the implications, they are quite huge. Like I've said before, China is the factory of the world because they have, excess capacity in terms of energy, and their labor is as well, relatively cheaper. We are supposed to be the factory because we have cheap labor, but because our power sector is comatose, industries are running away from us. I want to look at the operational cost of businesses as well. Power is about 5%, operational cost of businesses. If you are to rely on alternative, self-generated power, it shoots up your cost. Now that we have diesel over 1,000 naira, companies are recording 10-15% operational cost due to, power supply issues. If we put all these things together, we'll see that little wonder our GDP, has crashed. We were doing $500 billion in 2014-15. Today, we are doing a little over 250 billion. IMF has put us as I've already stated, that we are now the 4th largest economy in Africa, but we were the first like 10 years ago. Today, the likes of South Africa and Egypt have overtaken us. So it's unemployment again. Want to talk of unemployment, is rising. Youth restiveness, all over the place. So these things are as a result of failure in the power sector, not just the power sector alone, but other factors are part of the issues, but power is one of the major issues we are dealing with here.
Thank you very much, Ikechukwu, and rightly so. Businesses are spending a lot more than they originally planned on electricity and energy, just powering their day-to-day activities. So that's something that we actually need to really tackle. And like you said, it is taking business away from the nation. Factories are being set up overseas, and that is affecting the GDP. Our ranking has fallen, as you rightly mentioned. So that is a point of concern. Taya, just want to confirm that you're back with us.
I am indeed. I'm in the back end of nowhere, as usual, chasing after renewables. So I'm struggling with connectivity.
Yes, I completely
So
understand.
you would have to bear with me. And I'm not exactly the most technical person in the world. So do bear with me.
Over 250 billion.
Okay.
IMF has put us.
I'm getting a bit of an echo from time to time. I'm going to try and walk through that. Now, so your question originally, Fadera, was how do businesses currently manage the challenges of meeting high energy demands required for expand operations and optimize production?
Like 10 years ago.
Am I correct?
Today,
Yes, that was my question.
Hello, Mr. Tayo, can you hear me?
Okay, it seems he's still struggling with connectivity, so I'm just going to move on to our next question. And
Hello?
other factors.
Yes,
sorry.
Mr. Tayo. Mr. Tayo, I think
yeah.
your YouTube, you open the YouTube on a different tab. That's where the voice is coming
That's
from.
where the
So
problem, well.
Yeah, find the YouTube tab and close it.
Okay, so Jason, my next question for you is the growing accessibility to alternative renewable energy solutions worthy of serious consideration for businesses seeking to meet high energy needs?
Well, absolutely. I hope there is no echo anymore. And I had to switch. Okay. I mean, the growing accessibility of renewable energy solutions is indeed worthy of serious considerations for Nigeria's businesses in Nigeria. So I work for CTH, Clean Technology Hub, and most of our work also involves going into communities, and being an advocate and also creating awareness for renewable energy, energy access, and also educating them on the challenges of climate change. And most of this work, when we go into communities to do them, we see how, especially the women, so especially the vulnerable group in the society, we see how they long to, do businesses. People don't want to go about begging. People have hands, they want to learn, they want to work, they want to earn a living. And it is becoming increasingly frustrating for them when most of the ideas or most of the things that they would like to do, are heavily reliant on power, and they can't have that. And so some of the things that we're doing, and we're seeing these needs in communities. So we're not even talking urban areas now. We're talking in the rural areas. We're talking in last mile communities. So it cuts across everywhere. The accessibility, people need it. So what's the alternative? And so we're trying our best to see how we can address that, energy poverty, as it's called. We're trying to see how we can address that. And so, yes, it is really worthy of serious consideration if we want to, like Mr. Okafor had said. I mean, when the news came out that, we had dropped by how many points, and I now saw that we were number 4. I think that was when I kind of, it shook me a bit, because we take for granted the fact that, we're number 1 all the time, and now we were not even number 2 or number 3, but we were number 4, bypassed by Egypt and South Africa. I think it is time for us to sit down and think critically how this can help us. And I agree with you, Mr. Okafor. In fact, I would step it up and say that I think power is the singular most important thing that needs to be solved in this country. Maybe not in other countries, but in this country, a lot is relying on this sector. And if this sector gets it right, then we would, move up. And I see how the government is actually trying with the renewable energy roadmap that has been developed with the Energy Commission of Nigeria, highlighting the potentials of additional renewable energy development up to 2050. So there are actually, there are talks, but I'm not really a fan of talks. I like for us to, get it done, and let's start doing what needs to be done. So now there's a strategic plan to harness Nigeria's rich natural renewable energy resources and address the increasing demand for it. This would unlock economic development. This is not rocket science. This is not witchcraft. We know that if we can just get this right, so solar, wind, hydro, all these alternative sources without environmental and financial costs, and we'll get to financial costs later, because I know there's a question talking about how expensive it is and all of that, but the money, like Mr. Okafor said, the money that we're already spending on fossil fuels, it's not sustainable to have a business and have it run on generators that is either fueled by, uses fuel or uses diesel. I mean, it won't work. And so we need to look for a way to not just talk about it, create awareness, but also advocate for this if we want to move forward. And it will also help. So it's a win-win situation, because we train people who can now also create this equipment that can be used, and then we also give it to people who now use it to run their businesses, and then we also protect the environment. So I think that it's long-term benefits are there. We just need to pivot or just focus on what can help us move forward right now. So I think I'll stop there.
Thank you very much for that. And I really like the fact that you mentioned the government's intervention, because for anything to happen on the large scale, for an impact to occur, then the government needs to step in, be it education, implementation, or putting in some capacity building. So that always needs to come from top down. Hi, Tayo, back to you.
Hi, yes, thank you very much. Right, I hope we've all got the problem solved. So I'm going to turn around quickly. I'm in the back end of nowhere, so I'm really struggling with connectivity. Now, I'm going to start with the first question you threw at me. And if I'm correct, the idea is, how do businesses currently manage the challenges of meeting high energy demands and required to expand operations and optimize production? Yes?
Exactly that, yes.
So Here's an interesting thing that I want to break it down. For you to start to think of optimizing production, you're already in a flow of production in itself. So let's hold that there and dial back a little bit. We're talking startups here. So when we're starting to talk of startups, you're starting to look at, okay, first of all, you've got an idea and then you come up with the whole concept of having the courage to actually start it. There are already enough, how would I put it, for startups? There are already enough handicaps between us in this part of the world and our counterparts in different parts of the world. So I'll give you an example. If I was to go into England tomorrow and I wanted to actually start up a business, I walk into the building, I get an office, I'm given a structure of payment, okay? That's all I have to think about. The rent is over a period. And sometimes I get a moratorium, which would be, okay, maybe the first 3 months, I don't have to pay a thing. Now, consider that in different parts of the world. So we're starting this again. If I was to go into England tomorrow, I think I wanted to actually start really sorry. I walk into the building, I get an office, I'm given a structure.
Sorry, can he check if there's another link? Because I think I got a second link which I had to, close before I continued the session. There was a time my second link popped up on my screen. I had to shut it.
Hi, Taya, if you can hear,
So you're on mute. So I don't know if you can unmute yourself.
Okay. My next question then for you is for you, Ikechukwu, and it is, what is the energy consumption pattern for startups and businesses in Nigeria, and how should they approach energy sufficiency? You're muted.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So in terms of the consumption pattern, it's a function of the size of the business, the sector that you are operating in, and then seasonality as well. SMEs, for instance, we expect them to, consume, less power than multinationals or PLCs. If startups that are in the services sector, they usually, consume less than those in manufacturing sector. So, and then look at seasonality as well. For instance, activities during the festive seasons, usually get ramped up, and then power is usually consumed more during maybe Christmas or Salah than your normal course of, activity during the year. Generally, the choice is usually between using the grid or getting an alternative, which is usually maybe diesel or petrol-powered generator. But for in terms of like, if we want to look at the daily patterns of energy consumption, for instance, the startups in the logistics, foods, vendors, the fintechs, these are usually, the activities are usually during the daytime, usually between the hours of 8 and probably 5. So you expect them to consume more energy during this period than, in the evenings. For those that have like data centers, communication masts, these are supposed to be, on throughout the day, night and day. So their energy consumption is usually, constant throughout the day. And then manufacturers, they run their businesses in shifts, because sometimes, if they produce daytime, nighttime as well. So for businesses in this sector, you expect them to consume power, maybe as much power as they do in the daytime and as they do at night. Interestingly, the energy price in Nigeria is, is constant. If you are sourcing from the grid, if you are sourcing alternative power, the price is, the same. Unlike in some countries where you have different prices for peak periods and off-peak periods. So I would say that the peak period in Nigeria for businesses is usually the daytime. And that's when they do most of their transactions or activities. To achieve sufficiency, we have to recognize the fact that, yes, energy is not sufficient. So historically, most businesses use, like I said earlier, diesel or petrol generators to bridge the gap from what they get from discos. But due to the high cost of fuel today, um, we are calling for a rethink to this approach. And therefore, the most viable option now is to embrace renewable energy as your backup option. In some cases, it could even be your main option. Diesel.
Hi, Kishiko, we've lost you. But as to not keep us waiting, so I have another question for you. So considering the high acquisition costs, are there significant benefits and ROI for businesses and startups to justify integrating renewable energy solutions like solar power systems into their operations?
Yeah, so this is what, I was going to talk about a little bit. And yes, there's the initial high acquisition cost, in integrating renewable energies like solar power systems and all of that. But if we look at it this way, it's quite expensive, yes, to invest in it now. But if we're looking at it long term, it will actually help you. Today, they talk about subsidy of fuel. Tomorrow, you don't know what could happen. Last year, we weren't buying fuel or even diesel at the petrol or diesel at this price that we're buying it now. Imagine if it increases over time, and then think of how much you may have to spend in say 4 years on running, and it's not just buying the petrol or the diesel, it's also maintaining the generator, or and some can't even run for that long, and then you have to buy another one. And so yes, in short term, it looks like it's not a wise decision to make, but over time, yes, it's actually you get your ROI back on this kind of investment, but you have to think long term. Now, there are key points here that I put down, about 4 of them. So first is the cost savings, right? So over time, renewable energy systems can lead to substantial cost savings. Businesses can reduce their electricity bills, right, as they use renewable sources like solar, wind, or whatever. Mr. Okafor was talking about band A, band B. I mean, we just wake up to a lot of surprises happening here, and this can really help. I'll give an example at the end of this to tell you how this can actually help, because yes, are renewable energy sources, are the equipment expensive? Definitely they are. Number 2 is the positive environmental impact, right? I have talked about this and how this reduces carbon footprint. It contributes to a greener planet. It combats climate change. And then it also aligns with the global sustainability goals, because I am very passionate about what we leave for for the generation coming, and we don't want to damage the planet. If there are alternatives, why not look into them and see how we can preserve what we have here, right? So number 3 is energy security and what they call it, independence, right? So businesses are more successful when they know that they have reliable energy and it's independent energy supply. So it reduces the reliance on external sources and also offers them protection against the fluctuating energy prices, like I mentioned before. Another case is the government incentive. So this not so much, but I would like to tie it to my example that I want to give. So now we know very well that because these equipments are actually very expensive, how do businesses begin to save or have enough money to even, purchase these equipments? And one way we can look at it is if people come together and see how, especially if their businesses are around the same age. Of course, I'm not talking like manufacturing plants, but I'm just talking about small businesses, startups, if there is a way that, they can put things together, put resources together, and maybe even approach any MFIs now. We have a lot of banks are now jumping on the wagon, right, in terms of renewable energy. Sterling Bank was the one who championed this course, and now we have FCMB. So we have even microfinance banks. We have banks that are, trying to see how they can help in this situation. I'll give you an example. So again, like I said, because we work with women in communities, we're trying to see how we can get them to, form cooperatives and then contribute money to that cooperative, no matter how small. And then approach a bank, register the cooperative, approach a bank and see how they can get a loan, right? So that they can buy these equipments that can help them with their businesses. And then, of course, there are modalities to it. So if we can't wait and say, let's start getting all the money we need to do it, but is there a way that you can put together something, even if it's with other people within the ecosystem, where you can all share that power and then approach a financial institution or even an investor to see how that can help? And then over time, I assure you, you would make more money, because you're not spending so much on electricity bills, and you can even monitor it. So there's also the sense of owning that, and it makes you even work on your business more, because now that you own this source of energy, you're able to monitor how well you use it and how well you don't use it, and then that helps you to even plan further. So yes, ROI long-term, yes, you would get it back. But so what we need to do is overcome what we see now and hope that, we're able to make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I completely agree with her. So you mentioned the initial cost of investment is high, which is usually the deterrent for a lot of people. They don't have that much disposable income and really they are thinking short term. They don't see the benefits in the long term. So I think as experts and establishments, we really need to push this message and really allow the masses to understand that it is an investment, rightly so, but your ownership, your sense of business, your sense of consumption of energy, that increases, and that you can better navigate all of that should you have the power. So welcome back, Tayo. Shall we try once again?
Right, that's it. Can you hear me actually?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, so all right, I'm gonna let you lead me on this. So just fill me in because I've missed so much of it at the moment.
Okay.
We were talking about the concept of optimizing production, expanding operation and optimizing production. And where I was going into was that even bigger challenges before you start. So I'm going to try and wrap that up very quickly. But how do the businesses currently manage the challenges of meeting high energy demand? It might be funny, but the only way you're going to have to do is to have a managed energy solution. So you're really taking you're divesting yourself away from the grid, which is totally epileptic at the best of times. Also, the concept of spending so much on a generator, and therefore you're looking at alternative means of generation. Now, how do you go into that? I would say in this particular era we're in, we'll be looking at a combination of maybe a hybrid of solar, looking at a little bit of the grid as well, and maybe a generator backup. So because of me so much, I'm just trying to put my thoughts in process. So first you get over the hurdle of actually really getting into production. Then you're going to look at expanding your operations. Now, there are, I think in last year, when we looked at some of the figures we looked at from my office, we were spending so much on just having power in the office. And in that process, we went down the line of having a solar generator. And I don't think I've been able to, we have not used fossil fuels in the last 1 year. Now, that in itself has opened up the ability for us to have all those funds that would have gone into buying diesel on a daily basis. And I kind of want to start to tell you, to actually being able to plot it back into therefore looking at expanding our operations and therefore also optimizing production. So the long and short of that is that to be able to do that, you've got to start to look at renewables. I'm sorry I've missed a lot of what my other panelists have said, but I wanted to get over this very quickly so we can move on. And I hope I've answered some of that question now.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much for that. And whilst I still have you on, I would just like you to tell us what is an energy audit and how important is it to a business seeking to optimize energy consumption and save cost?
So we can go into the technical base of an energy audit, but because we're talking just broadly, an energy audit for me is understanding your energy needs. Is a process by which you can actually have somebody come in and look at your whole, be your office, your home, whatever it is that you're trying to flow, your buildings for people into real estate. Look at exactly what your energy behavior is and what your energy needs are. So the audit is able to come in, look at the building, not only just tell you how much your load is, exactly what your load you need, is also able to look at whether you're leaking energy with parts of the building, which is probably old, therefore you're losing parts of the energy that you're harnessing. And so what the energy audit does is actually helps you focus on what your needs are. And I will give you an example of some things that have come out from our energy audits. We did some energy audits of late whereby we've got a company which is running a 250 kVA generator backed by a 150 kVA generator. And when the audit came through, at their peak, their load was about 70 kVA at the most. So let's drop the technical bit. So we're actually coming back to it. What we're saying is, you have a business that is spending about 3 times what they would have needed, A, in buying the generator, B, in actually running the generator. So what the audit really does, it helps you focus on exactly what your needs are, thereby able to save money and or actually focus on diverting your money to exactly what you need to do. And I think that would wrap it up in a nutshell. For all those who might be thinking of going into maybe you're starting your businesses, you're going into a new building, I would always recommend that by the time you're looking at saying, okay, what are my energy needs? Get a professional in, get an energy audit done before you start spending money on anything that generates power. And of course, we know, like we were looking at before, power is everything in this part of the world and in sustaining your business.
Thank you very much for that, Tyra, and you're very right about that. Ikechukwu, my next question is for you, and it goes, what global and local financing options and payment plans are available for startups and businesses seeking to fully or partially adopt renewable energy solutions?
Okay, thank you once again. Sorry, I got cut off in the last time. I was just ranting here. I didn't even know. I was just talking to myself. So when I came back, I think I had Dosun, conclude on my behalf, and I want to appreciate that too. So I just want to make a point, before I go to this question. Just to draw an analogy, at diesel over 1,000 naira now, if you use diesel to generate a kilowatt hour of power, that's going to cost you about 400 to 500 naira. So this kilowatt hour, what do we mean? For instance, your microwave oven, it's the power rating is 1,000 watts. That's 1 kilowatt. So if you use your microwave oven for an hour, it's going to cost you 400 to 500 naira if you are using diesel. If you're on band A, that's going to cost you that 225 naira the government announced earlier in the month. Okay, so it's just to give us an idea of what the cost implications are. But if you are going to use solar power for that particular oven, it's going to cost you about 100 naira. So today, solar power is actually cheaper than for those who are in band A. That's why I called it a punishment for having excess power from the government. So just to put that in perspective. So talking of finance, we're talking of international finance, like you said, global finance. For businesses, private businesses, what you have in the international market are usually for developers, those who are into mini grid or off-grid development. So in that case, we are looking at project finance. So, but for businesses, the kind of finance that businesses would be looking at would be like asset acquisition or asset finance from financial institutions, and that's available locally. We have this BOI facility that they called Solar Energy Fund, that startups and other businesses can access to acquire solar energy systems for their businesses. We also have some banks, deposit money banks, as well as financial microfinance banks that are into this asset finance as well. I think it has been mentioned earlier. Some businesses or some startups who are already operating in this renewable energy space have appreciated the fact that funding is an issue. So most businesses really need these facilities, but funding is an issue. So they have developed some products, in-house to cater for the needs of their customers. I think Energy, the host of this platform or this conversation, has some of those things in their portfolio as well. We look at energy as a service, where as a business, you can call them to install this solar system for you, and then you pay based on what you need. They also have this lease to own. It's a kind of arrangement where you get the facility installed in your premises, and then you pay instrumentally until when you finish your payment, then it becomes yours. There's also buy now, pay later arrangements with a lot of other people as well. So I think for clusters of businesses, they can as well take advantage of what you call like a microgrid, which developers also deploy to clusters of businesses, so that you pool resources together. Mrs. Tako mentioned it earlier. So you pool resources together to have those things around your business premises. Because if you do that, if you mix, if you add renewable into your energy mix, you are guaranteed substantial cost savings. We are talking of 30–40% savings in cost of power alone for your business. So it's such arrangements are there for businesses to take advantage of. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ikechukwu. Yes, you mentioned the likes of BOI and yes, Energy as well. We do have programs like the lease to own, in which you can buy now and pay back over a certain period of time. And Dosen also mentioned the likes of Sterling Bank, who do have particular funds specifically for renewable energy projects. So if that's something that you are interested in, you can explore such opportunities with your bank. I know Access Bank, FCMB, Jason also mentioned a couple of these. They have the fund for renewable energy projects. So if it's something that you require for your home or your business, it's definitely something you should explore. So on your screen is just a short poll. If you could please just take a few minutes to answer these questions. Question 1 being, which factors will mostly effectively drive the adoption of renewable energy solutions for businesses around you? Number 2, what are the main factors influencing the decision of businesses around you to adopt renewable energy solutions? Question 3, how high has your energy costs increased over the past 2 years? And question 4, which renewable energy solution holds the most potential for supporting business growth in Nigeria? So if you could just please answer from the multiple choice question, that would be great. And also the chat box is open if you do have any questions that you want to ask the panelists at the end of the session. But I want to thank Dosen and Ikechukwu. I just have one more question, and I would actually like to hear both your answers for this. So question goes, what advice and cautions regarding reliable technologies and effective management will you give businesses considering adopting renewables and solar energy solutions? So I would like to start with you, Dosen.
Okay. Let's see. So advices. 1, access your energy needs, right? So understand your current and your future consumption, right? To determine the type and size of a renewable energy system that would be most effective for your business. Research incentives. So like we had said, look into government incentives, tax credits and rebates that can reduce the initial investment in renewable energy technologies. Consider your location. The effectiveness of solar, especially solar energy systems, can vary depending on geographical location. So you have to ensure that your site is well suited for solar installations. It will make no sense to put solar panels in a place where it always rains, right? So that wouldn't exactly make sense. So also another thing is quality and warranty. Invest in high quality equipment with strong warranties that can help to ensure long-term reliability and performance. and then engage with stakeholders, right? So involve everybody from employees to customers to investors in the transition to renewable energy, to just foster support and collaboration. It's very important that you don't see yourself as just a one-man team, but involve everybody that is supposed to be involved in this sector. So those would be my advices for now, my advice for now. For cautions, well, be prepared for the initial cost. Upfront cost can be a lot, so you have to think about that and evaluate, the financial feasibility of whatever it is you're trying to do in your business as against the cost that you're going to use to purchase the equipment. Regulatory changes. Nigeria is a prime example, right? Because we wake up today, something happens, we wake up tomorrow, another thing happens. So you have to stay informed about potential changes in energy policies and regulations that can actually affect the viability of the investment. So always be on the lookout, find out what's going on, what the government is thinking, what policies may be coming out, so actually do that. And then, because renewable energy is also rapidly advancing, you have to keep an eye out for new developments, for anything that can offer better efficiency. I can tell you that what we were using 3 years ago, we have created things that are better than what we did. So keep an eye out for that as well, so that you are also up with the trend on what's happening in terms of technological advancements. Maintenance, everything needs maintenance. So do not think that because you're buying it or you're investing in it, then it can stay forever. You have to maintain it. So that is something you should also consider, right? Is that something that you would like to do? How often would you want your equipment to be looked at, checked out, maintained? So yes, so these are cautionary statements that I would give, but in the long run, it's advisable to look for alternative sources, at least until our government gets it right. But for now, these are my advice and my cautions for now.
Thank you very much, Dusun, and I completely agree. But like you said, the caution, it goes both ways, and typical traditional electricity energy generation, alternative energy generation, there's still implementations that go on the traditional side. So the same way you would need to keep abreast on the renewable energy is the same way you would. So it's not as though it's strange. It's just something that you wouldn't have to do if you weren't going down this avenue. So thank you very much for that. And Ikechukwu, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the same question.
Okay, thank you. I would say that the issues in the power sector in Nigeria are enormous, to be honest. And yes, the government is trying, its best to see how it can, overcome those challenges. But if we have to, project honestly, these issues, I don't see any substantial improvement in the short term. Okay, so, and solar systems, for instance, they are getting increasingly cheaper, whereas the alternative fuel like petrol and diesel will most likely continue to go higher. So it becomes a natural choice to embrace renewable energy. Even the grid itself, power from the grid will also continue to go higher as things begin to improve. So to bring down your cost of production, your cost of services, your cost of doing business generally, it's a smart choice for businesses to make, to have these options available to them. In terms of the finance cost, yes, understandably, there is an upfront cost. That's what most people are running away from. But now that opens an opportunity for, can I go on?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Okay, it seems we've lost Ikechukwu. Ikechukwu, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, Tayo. Welcome back. So I was just asking Ikechukwu and Dosun the final question, which I would also like to hear your thoughts on. And the question goes, what advice and cautions regarding reliable technologies and effective management will you give businesses considering adopting renewables and solar energy solutions?
Run that by me again. I'm also struggling with connectivity still. What advice and cautions regarding renewable technologies and effective management will you give businesses considering adopting renewable solutions? Yes?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, all right. I will go back to the beginning where, it's literally a summation of all the things I wanted to say. And it's such a shame that I actually missed out most of the session. But I'll go back to, all right, so to answer the question succinctly, all we're talking about is the way forward has to be a hybrid system anchored on renewables. So we'll go back to the essence of your energy audit. The audit being, like we said before, is an inspection survey of energy flows for energy conservation. It may include a process or system to produce energy input without negatively affecting your output. So what you're looking at doing is know exactly what your energy needs are, but looking at saying the renewable energy technology, I want to go back to something that you were going to ask me earlier on, which would be, what was that again? Businesses seeking to complete existing power sources and renewable energy. What is the most effective energy mix? So that's part of all the advice we're holding on. It has to be, and I was listening to some of what Ikechukwu was saying earlier on, is about the energy mix. So what would, in our experience of late, we're finding out that if you have a basic ability to harness power from solar during the course of the day, thereby not using diesel, whatever energy, what it is. If you're able to harness your solar, you're able to run your business in the course of the day. And as the evening draws up, then you start to rely on storage. Since you're talking business, your reliance on storage, therefore, in the evening is not so much, it doesn't have such an impact on you. I know businesses, as in SMEs, that have not had the need to have to use generators in the last 12 months, my office included. And what that's able to do is, okay, all right, all that money, and I think I was talking about that before, can be channeled into elsewhere. So as in the energy mix, you're starting your day with a little bit of energy coming from last night. Your solar takes over. You're using exactly what you need, which is maybe the appliances has to be renewable compatible. So you're talking air conditioners, which would therefore be, if you're looking at air conditioners, you're looking at air conditioners, that inverter type ACs, all that sort of. So you can run during the course of the day. And as your evening comes along, what happens in the evening is, I mean, by the time you're closing at 6, you're just starting to deplete whatever storage systems you have. Now, what I would like to do, and I think because I've missed a lot of it, I'm just going to try and squeeze a lot together. And I think Ikechukwu was saying something about finance and cost of it. Yes, in this day and age, and I think That's also been mentioned over and over in the course of the day. In this day and age, there are places you can go to, the establishments, financial establishments that you can go to, where you're talking to OEMs like Energy, which can be onboarded to other financial institutions. In which case, the initial cost, which can be what puts you off going into your capex, which is what puts you off going into solar in the first place, can be spread over a reasonable period for you. For some, I want to do it in 12 months. Some I want to do in 24. Some I want to do in 36, depending on what your model is. In that case, we want to be able to accommodate in such a way whereby it really does not have a too much of an effect on what your inflows are, comparatively. What I'm trying to say is, comparatively, you're able to generate income without as much as the OPEX of running your diesel down. So it gives you a better chance of survival. So what are the cautions regarding renewable technologies? I think it's something that needs to be embraced. The only caution I'll say is, if you're going to go into it with your eyes wide open. Don't just go with, yeah, Joe said X and B said Y, because there's so many advices out there. Just go for a reliable source of information and let your team decide on what your financials are before you start to embark on it. So that there will be no hidden surprises. There will be no renewable energy is energy is 1 + 1 = 2. So this is what my load is. This is what my usage is. That's what I have used in the course of the day, and that's what I'm going to have left behind. So without rabbiting on, I think the essence, what we're saying is, what your cautions regarding that will be that reliable technologies all over the place at the moment. And then you also have the technologies which are kind of like your appliances that you're buying, which are coming with warranties all over the place. So you've got batteries come with 5-10 year warranties, inverter comes with large warranties. So it is definitely the way forward. A mix is what you really want. So when you're talking about your mix, you're talking about, again, like I said, renewable being anchored by the grid, renewable being your anchor, and being supported by the grid, and maybe a generator to back you up, in summation.
Thank you very much, Taya. I completely agree with that. So we actually have a couple of questions in the Q&A, and I would like to look at the poll results first, but just based on what Taya has said, we have a question. Okay, Chinasa, it seems as though you are satisfied with that answer, but Taya, you had a question specifically for you from the audience, asking whether or not the solar solutions are reliable. And you have touched on that point. So I just wanted to find out if you had anything else to expand on that particular point, just before we look through the poll results.
Right. I mean, I touched on the essence of, I think, reliability, like I said, how long is a piece of string? But when you say how reliable are they, your reliability is now being backed by warranties. So if you're worried about reliability, look for equipment that's got warranties on it over a period of time. So with your warranty period, anything goes wrong with that equipment, it's taken away, you get a new one, and you're still, the expectation remains. I said, I'm expecting a little bit of energy during the course of the day, whatever it is expected, whether it's a 5 kVA to 50 kVA, whatever it is. But on that side of it, just look for warranty periods, and you will not go wrong.
Exactly. And just to add to that, regarding the reliability of the system, it's not as though a solar solution cannot handle all your energy needs, but you need to look at it this way. Solar works with the sun. If you experience days of, let's say, 3 days back-to-back rain, we do have technology that allows the panels to generate at any little sunlight exposure. However, the capacity that you would require to power your loads and also store in the battery may not be enough, which is where a backup of like a grid or a generator comes in, Shinasa, to answer your question. So before we get into the other questions from the audience, we'll look through the poll results, which should be displayed on your screen now. So our question 1, the most popular response was flexible financing options, which was in response to which factors will most effectively drive the adoption of renewable energy solution for businesses around you. So flexible financing options. I've seen one of the questions asking about this and some of the funds that are available. So some of the banks that have available funds, the way in which it works is that the interest rate for these projects are a lot lower than whatever it would be on a regular loan you would be taking out of the bank. Organizations like Energy are financing options. Of course, there's an outright sale in which you buy and you completely own the system, but there's a lease to own, as Ikechukwu mentioned, where you have the system, initial amounts, let's say 30%, 10% of the whole system, and then month on month, you pay back the amount depending on the duration that you've chosen. And the final option that we have is energy as a service, in which established businesses, schools, hospitals have it's basically like a pay-as-you-go metered, and your consumption is what you're charged. Moving on to question 2, the most popular answer with 45% of you answering stability and reliability of supply. In response to the question, what are the main factors influencing the decision of businesses around you to adopt renewable energy solutions? A close second was savings on energy costs, which we did touch on and establish the fact that a lot of businesses are spending a lot more than they expected on just simple powering appliances and everyday tasks. Number 3, how high has your energy cost increased over the past 2 years? A majority of you answered 50 to 100%, which is right, because we've experienced rise in diesel costs, we've experienced tariff changes. So all this would definitely result in high percentage of increase. And our final question, which reliable energy solution holds the most potential for supporting business growth in Nigeria? Solar power, of course. So thank you very much for participating in that call. And we will take some questions from the audience. I know we don't have that much time left, but let's take a question for Ikechukwu, and this is the cost comparison where he used microwave as an example for usage of 1 kilowatt per hour. Could you please just explain what these units represent and how it would translate to the average business owner or homeowner with the energy bills?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I got cut off the last time.
Yeah, no problem.
These things happen. 1 kilowatt hour means 1,000 watts of power consumption in 1 hour. The microwave I used, 1,000 watt is the usual power rating for most microwave ovens. Just to support what Tayo said earlier about energy audit, all our appliances have power ratings somewhere, behind the devices. So if you want to know what your device consumes in terms of electricity, just look somewhere behind it. You will see the wattage. So for your microwave oven, you have about 1,000 watts. That is 1 kilowatt. So if your microwave oven is on for 1 hour, that's where we talk of 1,000 kilowatt hour, which means it has consumed 1,000 power and 1,000 watts of power for 1 hour. And that's where you are going to be charged 400, or if you are using diesel, it's going to cost you like 400, 500 naira, as the case may be. And that's where if you're in band A, it means if you are going to use your microwave oven for an hour, it's going to cost you 225 naira to warm your food for 1 hour. That's literally what it means. There are two major, the major consumption of I think the one device that consumes energy the most in most offices is your AC, your air conditioner. Most ACs, like your 1 horsepower AC, will consume about 750 watts. So your 2 horsepower will be looking at 1.5 kilowatt, as the case may be. So if you do the multiplication, you understand the cost implication of these things. I hope I have explained enough for Chinasa to understand. Otherwise, we can open it for discussion.
Great, thank you very much, Ikechukwu. That was very concise. In the interest of time, we'll take one more question, and I will allow Dusan to answer this. So this is from Nassam Solar. Are there ways government is working to integrate renewable energy, specifically solar installations, in TVET curriculum? TVET stands for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, for those who may not be aware.
Sorry, I'm actually also looking for the question because that was quite a long one.
Okay, it's in the Q&A box, so I'll repeat it. Are there ways government is working to integrate renewable energy, specifically solar installations, into TVET curriculum?
So that's in teaching people, like formal education?
Exactly.
Yeah. I know of private organizations that are doing that. There's a college in Lagos that is doing that. I know of people who on their own are teaching people. Hub just recently hosted a women-led company that taught women how to install solar panels. And so all the participants were women in it, where they learned how to install and how to check and all of that in terms of solar. Is the government putting together a curricula? None that I know of yet. I know that most of the work that is being done now in teaching, whether it's formal or informal, it's in the private sector. But we're hoping that these are some of the things that the Electricity Act that was signed in last year would cover, because it's supposed to cover everything from distribution, generation, transmission, and I hope education as well. And then it's covering every source of energy. And it is something that I'm hoping that the government will look into. I haven't seen anywhere, but we get private organizations, we get foundations, we get international organizations that try to organize this kind of trainings for people. They have their own set of curricula that they use. And it would be very nice to see that the government can actually, imbibe some of these things going forward.
Thank you very much, Dusan. And that even goes back to the point that we were making about adoption needs to come from top down. So like she also mentioned, there are private organizations that have training programs and the like. The associations like REAN, they also hold training sessions. Organizations like us, Energy, we also do have installation and installer training programs. So these things are available. It's just a shame that it's not maybe under one umbrella, that you actually have to go out and search for these things, but they're definitely available. And I implore everyone on the call, if that's something you're interested in, to just maybe take a little bit time out of your day and explore the opportunities that are out there. So I just want to thank my panelists for your time. Thank you for joining the session. Thank you for sharing your insights and your experience with us. Thank you to my audience as well. Thank you for the insightful questions that you have asked and for joining this discussion. So if there have been any questions that have been unanswered, we'll definitely answer those via email, and we're always available at Energy, our LinkedIn, or our social media platforms are active. So if you have any questions, any inquiries, please feel free to drop them for us on any of these platforms. And thank you once again for joining me today, and do have a nice day. We have come to the end of the second session of 2024. And thank you to my panelists once again. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.